Marilyn was 74 when she told me something that broke my heart a little. She said, "Doctor, I'm afraid to go to bed now." Not because she feared the dark, not because she lived alone. She feared the clock. Every night she fell asleep around 10, then opened her eyes at 1:43, then 3:10, then 4:27, each time wide awake, dry-mouthed, frustrated, and reaching for the same glass of water on her nightstand. By morning, her body felt heavy, her mood was thin, and her memory felt one step behind her life. What changed her nights was not a sleeping pill. It was not a miracle powder. It was not some internet trick. It was a simple swap made with timing, physiology, and a little patience. Instead of taking big gulps of plain water near bedtime, she shifted most of her fluids earlier, then used a small, warm bedtime drink that actually supported sleep instead of just filling her bladder. A week later, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I only woke up once, and I fell back asleep." If that sentence feels emotional to you, tell me in the comments. That's me too, because I know how lonely broken sleep can feel. I'm Dr. Alina Serratia, and after years of working with older adults, I can tell you this. When seniors stop sleeping through the night, the problem is rarely just one thing, but one of the most overlooked triggers is what happens in that final hour before bed. Many people do what seems healthy. They keep drinking water late because they fear dehydration, cramps, dry mouth, or morning headaches. That sounds sensible. What few people realize is that the body after 60 does not handle nighttime sleep, bladder signaling, hormones, and fluid timing the same way it did at 35. And before I go further, let me say this clearly. I do not believe in instant cures. If you have severe insomnia, sleep apnea, uncontrolled diabetes, heart failure, kidney disease, prostate problems, swelling in your legs, memory changes, or you take medications that affect urination or alertness, this video is not a replacement for your clinician. But I've seen many seniors sleep deeper from the very first night they stop making one bedtime mistake and start giving the body a better signal. In a few minutes, I'll tell you the exact drink I often recommend first, who should avoid it, and why the strongest benefit may have less to do with thirst than with what your brain and bladder hear at night. Let me stay with Marilyn for one more moment, because her story hides the lesson. She was doing three things that seemed innocent. She drank a large glass of water after brushing her teeth. She ate a salty little snack while watching television. And she believed waking to urinate 3 times a night was just part of aging. That is where many seniors get caught off guard. Aging changes sleep, yes, but it does not mean you should accept miserable sleep as normal. The National Institute on Aging says older adults still need about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Yet sleep often becomes lighter, shorter, and more fragmented with age. You may wake more often. You may get sleepy earlier. You may rise earlier. Studies summarized by geriatric groups have found that 40 to 70% of older adults report sleep problems, and more than 40% report insomnia symptoms. So, if you wake at 2 or 3 in the morning, you are not failing. You are dealing with a very common physiologic problem. Now, here is the part many videos skip. Not every nighttime awakening starts in the bladder. Sometimes the brain wakes first, then you notice your bladder. Sometimes the bladder wakes you. Sometimes both happen together. In a Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine study, highlighted by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, 54% of nighttime awakenings in older adults with insomnia were associated with nocturia, which means waking to urinate. On those nights, wake time after sleep onset ran more than 20% longer. In plain English, once you got up to pee, you stayed awake longer. That detail matters. So why can plain water backfire at night, especially after 60? Here's what your body starts doing. During the day, water is wonderful. At bedtime, a large amount of plain water gives you volume, but not much else. It stretches the bladder. It may trigger urgency before your deepest sleep settles in. If you already sleep lightly, that urge pulls you fully awake. Then the light from the bathroom, the cold floor, the racing thought, and the irritated feeling of, here we go again, finish the job. The problem is not that water is bad. The problem is timing, amount, and the fact that water alone does nothing to calm the nervous system. That is why I do not tell my patients, just stop drinking at night and suffer. I teach them to change the signal. For many seniors, the better choice is a small, warm, sleep-supportive drink about 45 to 60 minutes before bed, not a big glass of plain water right before the lights go out. My favorite starting option is simple: a small cup of chamomile tea with a modest splash of tart cherry, or chamomile alone if cherry is not appropriate for you. Not a mug the size of a flower pot, not ice cold, not loaded with sugar, just a small, warm, intentional cup. Stay with me, because the reason this works surprises people. It is not magic. It is layering. The warmth itself can be calming. The smaller volume reduces bladder overload. Chamomile contains compounds such as apigenin, which may support relaxation through brain pathways linked with calmness. And tart cherry appears to provide natural melatonin and anti-inflammatory plant compounds. Some research suggests that combination can help certain people with sleep maintenance, which means staying asleep, not just falling asleep. The evidence is not perfect, and I want to be honest about that. A 2024 meta-analysis of 10 chamomile studies involving 772 participants found chamomile improved sleep quality overall and seemed especially helpful for nighttime awakenings or trouble staying asleep, though it did not clearly improve total sleep time or daytime function. A 2024 review of tart cherry studies found promising but still limited evidence. In one older pilot trial, 15 older adults with insomnia saw modest improvement in wake time after sleep onset. In another small study of adults over 50, 8 people who completed testing increased sleep time by 84 minutes on polysomnography, which is a formal sleep test. Small studies, yes, but not nothing. If that surprises you, type "small changes matter" below, because that is exactly how senior sleep improves. Not with drama, with smart layering. Now let me show you what usually makes the problem worse. The first mistake is the obvious one: a large bedtime glass of water. Seniors often drink it with good intentions, but a larger volume close to bed can overwhelm an already sensitive bladder. Older sleep tends to be lighter, so a bladder signal that a younger person sleeps through may wake you fully. Then a brief bathroom trip turns into 40 minutes of staring at the ceiling. The second mistake is the nighttime healthy snack that is actually salty. Crackers, soup, cheese bites, salted nuts, deli meat, even canned broth can drive thirst later and worsen overnight fluid shifts. If you have swelling in your ankles, that fluid may move when you lie down, and your kidneys may start making more urine at night. This is where many seniors think, my bladder is weak, when the bigger issue is evening salt, leg swelling, or medication timing. If your feet or socks leave marks by dinner, pay attention to that. The third mistake is the relaxing nightcap. Alcohol may make you drowsy, but it often fragments sleep later, worsens snoring or sleep apnea, and can increase urination. It gives you the illusion of sleep. Then it steals the quality. I know some of you already know that feeling. You fall asleep fast, then wake up at 2:30 with a dry mouth and a busy mind. If that is you, just write nightcap in the comments. No judgment. The fourth mistake is late caffeine hiding in plain sight. Coffee is obvious, but black tea, green tea, dark chocolate, cola, and some pain relievers also matter. Seniors often clear caffeine more slowly, so that innocent cup at 4 p.m. may still whisper to your brain at midnight. What happens next is important. The brain grows a little more alert, sleep gets lighter, and then even a mild bladder urge feels louder. The fifth mistake is assuming every nighttime wake-up is just age. That belief delays real care. Repeated waking can also be linked to sleep apnea, uncontrolled blood sugar, overactive bladder, prostate enlargement, depression, restless legs, chronic pain, heart issues, diuretics, and some antidepressants. A 2024 clinical review on sleep disorders in older adults reminds us that diuretics can worsen nocturia and that a medication review matters. So if you are waking often, especially with snoring, gasping, leg swelling, burning urination, chest symptoms, or big daytime fatigue, do not settle for self-diagnosis. Now, let's return to the bedtime drink itself, because this is the part most people want to skip straight to. Here is the version I like for many seniors. Steep chamomile tea, well, so it is fragrant but not bitter. Let it cool to a warm sipping temperature. Then add 1 to 2 tablespoons of unsweetened tart cherry concentrate, or a small splash of unsweetened tart cherry juice, if you tolerate it. Keep the total amount modest, around half a cup to 3/4 of a cup. Sip it slowly, 45 to 60 minutes before bed. Then stop drinking. That final part matters. Why not drink it right before bed? Because the body needs time to absorb it without sending you rushing to the bathroom. In fact, a 2025 study of 24 older adults, average age nearly 80, found that adjusting bedtime habits and timing improved nocturia, increased hours of undisturbed sleep, and improved sleep quality scores. The lesson was simple but powerful. Timing changes the outcome. It is not only what you drink, it is when your body receives it. Now, if tart cherry does not fit you, do not force it. This is where medically responsible advice matters. If you have diabetes, watch the sugar content carefully. If you have kidney disease, ask your clinician about potassium and fluid limits. If you take warfarin or another blood thinner or sedating medications, or you have ragweed allergies, ask before using chamomile regularly. If tart cherry is too sugary or irritating for you, plain chamomile alone may still be a reasonable option. Some people do better with warm milk or unsweetened fortified almond milk, but the evidence there is more mixed. That mixed evidence is worth understanding. A 2020 systematic review of 14 dairy and milk studies suggested milk or dairy products may help sleep quality in some people, but the results in older adults were inconsistent. In other words, warm milk can be comforting, and for some people that comfort is enough to help, but I would not oversell it as a sure answer. I usually choose the drink based on the person in front of me. If reflux is a problem, I adjust. If diabetes is the problem, I adjust. If chronic kidney disease is the problem, I adjust. There is no one cup that fits every senior body. Let me tell you about Frank, age 79. Frank swore the issue was his prostate. Maybe it was part of it, but not all of it. He took his water pill late in the day, ate dinner at 7:30, drank herbal tea at 9:30, and sat for hours with swollen ankles. We did not start with a fancy supplement. We moved the diuretic discussion back to his prescriber. We reduced evening salt. We had him elevate his legs before dinner. We used a small, warm chamomile cup instead of repeated glasses of water. He still woke some nights, but not 3 or 4 times. More importantly, he stopped believing he was helpless. If you needed that sentence today, hear it again. You are not helpless. One woman, I'll call Lena, 68, taught me another lesson. She was doing almost everything right, but she still woke twice a night. When we looked closer, she was drinking her sleep tea from a giant 16-ounce mug. It was caffeine-free, but the volume was the problem. We cut it down to 6 ounces, moved it earlier, and had her take a short walk after dinner to help her blood sugar settle. Within days, her second awakening disappeared. That is why I keep repeating the same point in different words. The body does not only respond to ingredients. It responds to dose, timing, temperature, and context. If you have diabetes, choose unsweetened options and watch your glucose patterns. If you have heart or kidney issues and have been told to limit fluids, honor that plan first. If you take a water pill, ask whether the timing is helping or hurting. The overlooked part is this. Many seniors do not need more liquid at night. They need a better evening plan. Here is the practical stack I use most often. First, front-load fluids earlier in the day. Hydrate well from morning through late afternoon, so bedtime thirst is less intense. Second, keep dinner less salty than lunch. Third, if your legs swell, put your feet up in the late afternoon or ask your clinician whether compression stockings are appropriate. Fourth, choose one small calming drink in the evening instead of repeated sips of plain water. Fifth, turn the bedroom into a sleep signal, not a waiting room. Dim light, quiet room, no scrolling, no television in bed. The body loves patterns. If you want, pause this video later and try this tonight. Finish most of your fluids by dinner. Have your small chamomile sleep cup around an hour before bed. Use the bathroom once, then again right before getting into bed if needed. Keep the hall light dim. If you wake at night, do not argue with yourself. Keep the light low, move slowly, and do not reward the awakening with bright screens or a snack. That sounds simple. But simple is not the same as weak. It is often what works. I also want to say something about dry mouth because many seniors tell me, "Doctor, I need water beside the bed," or "My mouth gets too dry." That is real, but dry mouth can come from mouth breathing, medications, nasal congestion, sleep apnea, or poor humidity, not only thirst. So if you need tiny sips for comfort, that is different from drinking a full glass. A bedside sip is not the same as bedtime flooding. This is where nuance matters. And here is a pattern interrupt some of you need. If you wake up because you feel anxious the moment your eyes open, the drink alone will not solve everything. Broken sleep often becomes a learned alarm. The body starts expecting 2 a.m. That means you may need a relaxation routine, breathing work, better pain control, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or evaluation for depression or sleep apnea. Please do not think you failed if one cup does not fix a complicated problem. Health is not a test you pass in one night. Still, many people improve faster than they expect when they stop sending mixed messages to the body. Warm, small, calm, early enough. Those 4 words matter more than expensive ingredients. Warm tells the nervous system to soften. Small respects the bladder. Calm means no caffeine, alcohol, or sugar bomb. Early enough means you are not drinking on the edge of sleep. If you're still with me, tell me your age in the comments and say whether your hardest time is 1 a.m., 3 a.m., or right before dawn. I read those patterns closely because they often tell me whether we are dealing with bladder timing, cortisol surges, pain, apnea, or habit loops. Let me bring Marilyn back one last time. By week 3, she had not become a different person. She had become herself again. She laughed more easily. She stopped dreading the bed. Her daughter told me, "She sounds like my mom in the morning now." That is what good sleep gives back. Not perfection, identity, patience, memory, balance, safety. And yes, better sleep can improve mood, steadiness, patience, and the decisions that shape a whole day. Sometimes the deepest relief is not just sleeping longer. It is no longer fearing the night. So what should you remember from all this? Plain water is excellent during the day, but a large amount close to bedtime can work against older adults who already sleep lightly and wake often. A small, warm, sleep-supportive drink, especially chamomile with a modest splash of tart cherry for the right person, may help support deeper, less interrupted sleep. The research is promising, not magical. The biggest wins often come when you combine that drink with earlier hydration, less evening salt, a medication review, and a calmer bedtime routine. Please be careful if you have kidney disease, heart failure, diabetes, leg swelling, reflux, frequent falls, dementia, prostate trouble, recurrent urinary infections, or if you use water pills, sedatives, blood thinners, or sleep medicines. In those cases, the safest move is to personalize this with your healthcare professional. And if you snore loudly, gasp, stop breathing in sleep, or feel exhausted despite enough hours in bed, ask about sleep apnea. That one gets missed all the time. If this video gave words to something you have been living with quietly, write, "I'm taking back my nights." That is not just a comment for me. It is a promise to yourself. And if you know someone over 60 who keeps waking up to pee, keeps blaming age, and keeps feeling worse every morning, share this with them. Sometimes one kind explanation changes a whole household. Subscribe if you want practical senior health guidance that respects both science and real life. In my next video, I'm going to show you the evening foods that silently trigger 3 a.m. wake-ups, even in people who think they eat light. Until then, be gentle with yourself tonight. Your body is not betraying you. It may simply be asking for a better signal.